Okay, today's lesson is looking at percentages, finding the value of an increase or a decrease. So in previous lessons, what we've been looking at is an increase and what we do. So we try and find this, we go from an original amount to an increased amount, and the increased amount is more than the original amount. And the key thing was to find this multiplier. So we take the percentage, divide it by 100, and add it to 1. Whereas decrease is not the opposite, but just one thing's changed around. Rather than adding, we take that percentage calculation away. So the original amount, the decreased quantity is less than the original amount, and so we find that multiplier, and that's what we should get. What we're going to look at today is looking at finding that what, if we have two amounts, to find out what percentage they increased or decreased by. So, and the calculation is there. So here's an example. So Mr. Hall Enterprises in 2010 turned over $2 million, but in 2011 the company turnover was only $150,000. So to make the numbers a little bit easier, rather than talking about in thousands, I've talked about in K. So 1K is equal to 1,000, or 1K dollars is equal to $1,000. So 2 million is actually 2,000 thousands, as it were. So that's quite a dramatic difference. But what was the percentage loss overall? So the other key thing with this is that words that you'll hear about profit and loss, and they refer to increase and decrease. So when we have a profit, it is the increase in the amount. When we talk about loss, it's a decrease. So let's take a look at the calculation. And whenever you're doing these sorts of calculations where you have to find the percentage, you follow the same steps. The first thing is work out the amount of the increase and decrease by subtraction. So you've been given two amounts. You've been given 2,000 and 150. So what is that? So what is the difference between them? So, and in some ways it is important to think about which way around these numbers are. Basically, in the end, we should end up with a decrease, shouldn't we? Because if we look at our values, we see that in 2010, it was 2,000, and in 2011, it was 150. So it makes sense to put it this way around, and that we end up with a decrease of 1,850. If I happen to have done it the other way around, 2,000 take away 150, I'd end up with a positive answer, but that's not a problem because I still look at the question and say it must be a decrease. So my answer must be a negative overall. So I can just change that. So once you worked out the difference of the two numbers, you divide by the original amount. This is where it is really important to choose the right one. So 2010 was earlier, the earliest value. So it's the 2000 we divide it by. So it's going to be the number from part 1 divided by 2000 gives us minus 0.925. Now the third step is exactly the same. We multiply that number by 100. And what I end up with is minus 92.5%, which in other words means that it's decreased by 92.5%. So the turnover had decreased by 92.5%. Let's have a look at another example. So the example I've got here is you had 5 books, now you have 7. What is the percentage change? So notice that I've included our calculation up the top here. So the first thing is work out the amount of the increase or decrease. So in this case, it's increase because I had 5, I now have 7. So that means I have plus 2. But what percentage is that increase? So I end up with plus 2 by going 7 take away 5. divide by the original amount. I started with 5, so I need to plus 2 divide by 5, and it gives me 0.4. Third step, multiply by 100, which gives me 40%. So effectively, this formula at the top here tells me what to do in each step. So this first line is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. So as long as you follow those steps, you'll get your answer. So in other words, I increased the number of books by 40%. Okay, here's a task. There's a number of items that were on eBay, and then they've had their prices changed. I want you to decide whether it's find the percentage increase or decrease. So find out whether it's an increase or decrease, and then say in percentage terms how large that increase or decrease was. Then there's also some questions that follow as well. So pause the video now. Okay, well done for giving that a go. Let's take a look at some answers. So the first one was an increase of 12%. So going from 50 to 56 is an increase of 12%. Now, how you should have worked that out is we should go 56 take away 50 gives me 6, so it's increased by 6. 6 divided by the original price, which is 50, times 100 gives me 12. Next one's 28, an increase again. Then 20 to 12 is a decrease of 40%, and you can see the calculation. 30 to 36, you can see it's increased by 12 and increased by 20 as the last one. So there's only one decrease there. So Dave buys a car for $500, sells it for $470. What is his percentage loss? So he's lost $30, hasn't he? But 30 out of 500 represents 6%. Mike buys a mug for $2 and sells it for $2. Oh, that's $2. And sells it for $2.40. What is his percentage profit? So the difference is 40 cents. 40 cents of $2 represents 20%. Melanie buys a shirt, sells it for $4, sells it for $6.20. Her percentage profit, so it's $2.20 out of $4 gives me 55%. Oh, Frank buys a football program for $2.50 and sells it for $3.30. Find his percentage profit. So it's 80 cents more. His percentage profit is 32%, a 32% increase. Kara buys a figurine for $80, sells it for $70. Find her percentage loss. She lost $10. So it's $10 of $80 is equal to 12.5%. So hopefully you went really well with that. There are just a quick summary of all the increase decrease work we've been doing. So you've got your multiplier for increases, your multiplier for decreases, and your calculation for finding the percentage increase decrease. There is a worksheet on your OneNote lesson page. You need to complete that.